Emma leaned back in her squeaky office chair, letting out a sigh as the clock on her desk hit 9:45 p.m. Another long day at the customer support center. She glanced at her reflection in the dim screen of her computer monitor. The dark circles under her eyes, the messy bun she hadn't bothered to fix, it all screamed exhaustion. The phone on her desk buzzed again. She straightened her posture and grabbed the receiver, forcing a cheerful tone into her voice. "Good evening, this is Emma with customer support. How can I help you?" For a moment there was silence. She glanced at the screen, wondering if the call had dropped. Then she heard a voice, deep, quiet, and shaky. "Emma?" Her heart skipped a beat. Customers rarely, if ever, called her by name. "Yes, this is Emma. How can I assist you?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I needed to hear your voice," the man said, his words slow, deliberate. Emma frowned. "Excuse me? Do I know you?" "No," he replied, hesitating. "At least, I don't think we've met, but I know you." Her grip on the phone tightened. "Sir, this line is for customer inquiries. If you don't have a—" "Please," he interrupted, his tone pleading. "Don't hang up. I don't have much time." Emma hesitated. There was something in his voice, an urgency, a sadness, that made her stay on the line. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice softening. "My name is Alex," he said, "and I don't know where I am. I had to call you." Her pulse quickened. This had to be a prank, but his voice didn't sound like someone joking. "How did you get this number?" "I don't know," he admitted. "All I know is that I needed to reach you. You're the only one who can hear me." Emma opened her mouth to respond, but stopped when he continued. "You used to keep a notebook," Alex said, his voice trembling slightly. "A green one with doodles all over the cover. You wrote in it every night before bed. Do you still have it?" Her stomach dropped. That notebook had been her private sanctuary during her teenage years. She hadn't touched it in years, but it was still tucked away in a box under her bed. "How do you know that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Alex said. "It's like these memories. They're yours, but somehow they're in my head too. There's a painting, isn't there, in your childhood bedroom, a little crooked, hanging by the window. It's of a meadow with a single tree in the center." Emma's breath hitched. She could picture the painting perfectly. Her dad had bought it at a flea market when she was 7. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice sharper now. "I'm not sure," he replied. "All I know is that I'm trapped somewhere. It's dark, and I feel like I'm drifting. But when I think of you, it's like I can hold on for a little longer." Emma felt her skin crawl, a mix of fear and intrigue rooting her to the chair. She glanced around the empty office, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead. She was alone. No one else would hear this bizarre conversation. "This doesn't make any sense," she said. "You're saying you're trapped? Where? In what?" "I don't know," Alex said, his voice cracking. "It's like I'm caught between dreaming and waking up. Sometimes I hear voices, but they're muffled, distant. But when I called you," he paused, "it's clear. You're clear." Emma pressed her fingers to her temple. This had to be a scam, or maybe someone playing a cruel joke. But the way Alex spoke, the raw emotion in his voice, it didn't feel like a lie. "Listen," she said, trying to steady her voice. "If this is some kind of trick—" "It's not," he interrupted. "I swear it's not. Please, Emma. I don't know how much longer I can stay here." There was a long pause. Emma could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "I just need you to talk to me," Alex said, his voice soft. "Please, I don't even know if I'm real anymore, but hearing your voice makes me feel like I am." Her throat tightened. Against her better judgment, she stayed on the line. They talked about trivial things at first. Her job, her favorite books, the town she grew up in. Alex listened intently, occasionally chiming in with questions or comments. But as the conversation deepened, he shared fragments of his own life. "I remember sitting in a cafe," he said. "It was spring. There was a woman sitting by the window, sketching something in a notebook. I wanted to say something to her, but I didn't. I just watched her from across the room." Emma's chest tightened. She had sketched in a cafe once, years ago, during a rare moment of inspiration. Could it have been her? "Emma," Alex said, pulling her back to the present. "I don't know how, but I think I've been connected to you for a long time." Before she could respond, the line crackled with static. His voice faded. "Alex," she said, panic rising. "Are you still there?" "Emma, don't forget me," he whispered before the line went dead. Emma sat frozen, the receiver still pressed to her ear. She stared at the clock on her desk, 10:15 p.m. The office was silent again, but her mind was a storm of questions. Who was Alex? And how had he known so much about her? That night, she pulled the green notebook out from under her bed and flipped through its pages. Her hands trembled as she found a sketch of a cafe, a sketch she had drawn years ago. In the corner of the page, she had written, "I feel like someone's watching me." She closed the notebook, her heart pounding. Maybe Alex wasn't a stranger after all. Emma sat in her apartment, the green notebook open on the coffee table in front of her. The sketch of the cafe stared back at her, hauntingly familiar. She couldn't shake the feeling that Alex's words had been real, no matter how impossible they seemed. Determined to find answers, she typed his name into her laptop's search bar. Alex Carter. Dozens of results popped up, but one in particular caught her attention. A local news article. "Man in critical condition after a car accident on Highway 17, she read aloud, her voice trembling. The article detailed how Alex Carter had lost control of his car during a rainstorm 3 weeks ago. He'd been rushed to the hospital and placed in a medically induced coma. Emma leaned back, her mind racing. It can't be, she whispered. But deep down, she knew it was him. Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. She grabbed it quickly, half expecting Alex's voice on the other end. Instead, it was her friend Kelly. "Hey, Emma," Kelly said cheerfully. "What's up? You sound weird." Emma hesitated. How could she explain what was happening? "It's nothing, just a lot on my mind." "Well, get out of your head and come to dinner tomorrow. You need to take a break from work," Kelly insisted. Emma agreed half-heartedly, but her mind was already elsewhere. She hung up and stared at her phone. If Alex was in a coma, how was he calling her? Was it some kind of supernatural connection? A glitch in reality? She didn't have answers, but she knew she couldn't ignore this. The next night, Emma sat at Kelly's dining table, picking at her food while Kelly chatted away about a new job. "You're not even listening, are you?" Kelly asked, narrowing her eyes. Emma sighed. "I think I'm losing my mind, Kelly." "That's not exactly news," Kelly joked. "What's going on?" Emma hesitated, then blurted out, "A man in a coma has been calling me." Kelly froze mid-bite. "What?" "I know it sounds crazy," Emma said quickly, "but his name is Alex Carter. He knows things about me, things no one else could know. I looked him up, and he's real. He's in a coma at St. Mary's Hospital." Kelly stared at her, trying to gauge if she was serious. "Emma, are you sure you're not just—" "I'm not imagining this," Emma snapped. "He's been calling me every night for the past week. He said he's trapped somewhere, like he's stuck between dreaming and reality." Kelly set her fork down and leaned forward. "Okay, let's say this is real. What do you plan to do about it?" "I need to see him," Emma said. "I have to go to the hospital." "Alone? That's not a good idea," Kelly said. "What if this is some elaborate scam, or worse?" "I don't think it is," Emma said, her voice firm. "I can feel it, Kelly. He's telling the truth." Kelly sighed. "Fine, but I'm coming with you." The following morning, Emma and Kelly walked into St. Mary's Hospital. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air as they approached the front desk. "Hi," Emma said to the receptionist. "I'm here to see Alex Carter." The receptionist typed something into her computer. "Are you family?" Emma hesitated. "I'm a friend." The receptionist looked skeptical, but eventually nodded. "Room 312, third floor." As they made their way down the corridor, Emma's palms grew sweaty. Her heart pounded in her chest. "What are you expecting to find?" Kelly whispered. "I don't know," Emma admitted. When they reached room 3112, Emma froze in the doorway. Alex lay in the hospital bed motionless. His face was pale, almost ghostly, and he was hooked up to a web of machines. Emma felt a lump rise in her throat. This was the man she'd been speaking to, the voice that had kept her awake at night. Kelly nudged her forward. "Go on." Emma stepped inside and sat down beside the bed. She reached for Alex's hand, but stopped herself. It felt too personal, too invasive. "Alex," she said softly. "It's me, Emma." Kelly raised an eyebrow. "You really think he can hear you?" Emma ignored her and leaned closer. "I don't know how you're doing this, but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Kelly sighed. "I'll wait outside. This is too weird for me." As soon as Kelly left, Emma pulled out her phone. She dialed her own number and held it to Alex's ear. "Can you hear me?" she whispered. For a moment, there was nothing but the steady beeping of the heart monitor. Then, faintly, she heard his voice through the phone. "Emma, you found me." Her eyes widened. "Alex, I'm here," he said, his voice weak but clear. "I don't know how much longer I can stay. It's so dark here, Emma." Her throat tightened. "I need to know what's happening. How are you doing this?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but I can feel myself slipping. It's getting harder to hold on." "You have to fight," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm here. I won't let you go." The line crackled and his voice faded. "Don't let me! Alex!" she cried, but the call disconnected. She stared at the phone, her hands trembling. She had heard him. He was there. Emma looked at Alex's still body in the bed, then at the machines keeping him alive. "I won't let you go," she whispered. She didn't know how, but she was determined to bring him back. Emma didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at her phone, waiting for it to ring. The words Alex had said, "Don't let me go," echoed in her mind. She felt powerless, trapped between the mystery of his calls and the reality of his lifeless body in the hospital bed. By morning, she made a decision. She couldn't wait for answers anymore. She had to find a way to reach him. When Emma arrived at the hospital, the nurse at the front desk gave her a concerned look. "Back again?" the nurse asked. Emma nodded. "I need to see Alex Carter." The nurse hesitated, then sighed. "Room 312, but nothing's changed." Emma made her way back to Alex's room. The air felt heavier this time, like the space itself was holding its breath. She sat by his bed, her eyes fixed on his pale face. "Alex," she whispered, taking his hand in hers for the first time. His skin was cold, his fingers limp. "I don't know how to help you, but I'm here. I'm not giving up." She closed her eyes and let the silence fill the room. The faint beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound. Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Her eyes flew open as she scrambled to answer it. "Emma." Alex's voice was faint, barely audible. "Alex, I'm here," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know how much longer I can hold on," he said. "It's so dark and I'm so tired." "Don't say that," she pleaded. "You have to fight. You have to come back." "How?" he asked, his voice cracking. "I don't even know where I am. I feel like I'm slipping further away every second." Emma's mind raced. She had no idea how to pull someone back from whatever limbo he was in. But then she remembered something he'd said before. Her voice made him feel real. "Alex, listen to me," she said, her tone firm. "You're not alone. I'm right here, holding your hand. Can you feel it?" There was a long pause. "I can," he said finally, his voice stronger. "You have to focus on that," she said, "on the connection between us. Picture it, like a rope pulling you out of the dark." "I'm trying," he said, "but it's so hard." Emma gripped his hand tighter, tears streaming down her face. "You're not giving up. Not now. I didn't come this far to lose you." The line crackled, and for a moment she thought she'd lost him again. But then his voice came through, clearer than before. "Emma, I see something. A light. Go to it," she said. "Follow it. I'll be waiting for you." The line went dead. Emma dropped her phone, her heart pounding. She looked at Alex's face, searching for any sign of change. Suddenly his fingers twitched. She gasped, leaning closer. "Alex?" she whispered. His eyelids fluttered, and for a moment she thought she might be imagining it. But then his eyes opened, soft, grey, and full of life. "Emma," he croaked, his voice hoarse. She let out a laugh of disbelief, tears streaming down her face. "You're awake! Oh my God, Alex, you're awake!" A few hours later, Alex was sitting up in bed, sipping water with the help of a nurse. Emma sat by his side, her hands still trembling from the shock of seeing him awake. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I've been hit by a truck," he said with a weak smile. "Oh, wait, I was." Emma chuckled, relief washing over her. "You scared the hell out of me, you know." "I scared myself," he admitted. "It was like I was floating in this endless void. The only thing that kept me anchored was you." She blushed, looking away. "I don't even know how we're connected, Alex. None of this makes any sense." He reached for her hand, his touch warm now. "Maybe it doesn't have to," he said. "All I know is that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you." Emma looked into his eyes, searching for answers, but all she found was sincerity. "Do you remember calling me?" "Not exactly," he said, furrowing his brow. "It's like fragments. I remember your voice, and I remember feeling like I needed to find you, but everything else is a blur." "It wasn't just a dream," she said. "You knew things about me, things no one else could have known." Alex nodded slowly. "Maybe it's fate." Emma laughed softly. Fate doesn't usually work through customer support hotlines. Maybe not, he said, smiling, but I'm glad it did. That evening, Emma and Alex sat by the hospital window, watching the sun set over the city. The warm orange light bathed the room, making everything feel surreal. You know, Alex said, breaking the silence, I remember seeing you before, at a cafe. You were sketching something in a notebook. Emma froze. That was you? He nodded. I wanted to say something, but I didn't. I thought I'd never see you again. She smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. I guess the universe had other plans. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Alex turned to her. Emma, do you believe in second chances? She took a deep breath, her heart full for the first time in years. I do now. And in that moment, with the fading light casting long shadows across the room, they both knew their connection was something far beyond coincidence.